Can you say hard hats, folks? Hard hats, lunch pails, steel toe boots.
Anything short of a championship this year is a failure. Look at this boomer right here.
You've just got so much talent here.
Somebody said we need to apologize for Jalen.
Can I close it, John? What are we apologizing for? What did we say? What did we do?
Check it out, guys. Back to America. We are here. We are live.
That's not even a Photoshop on Bobby. That's a real mustache.
I was going to say, I don't think I needed a mustache photoshopped on.
Oh,
John, I like that look over there.
I don't know what I'm doing over there. I got some stuff on.
You're God. You're actually way darker in real life. People are about to find out.
I know. I would have made me Leonidas there, but that would have been cooler. But yeah, here we are. We are here. We are here. We are live. We're back in the Garden Report, and yeah, I'm a good bit darker in real life.
I'm.
This contrast is ridiculous.
I'm not dark to begin with, but this makes me look like I'm a freaking ghost. Like I barely.
Jimmy, where's your tan? You were outside a lot,
dude. You know what it is? I'm just freckling. So you know what I'm doing? I'm putting on the SPF cream cheese these days. Everyone's telling me how important it is to freaking SPF up. So unfortunately, believe it or not, I'm not wearing any right now. This is just how I look, which is banana land. But John, dude, John looks like he just permanently. He's all oil. You just like oil up every morning, dude.
No, it's funny because it's bronze, baby. But no, this is me. This is how I get. And this is me like trying to be careful and like lathering it on and wearing like long sleeves during the day sometimes, But it's just how it goes. It's
good on you.
How it goes. It's good, but we're back.
Bonjour, Bobby.
What's up,
Bobby? I'm wearing the Paris hat for you. My dad, like I said, went. He got it. But Jimmy, Bobby met up in London. They were in Paris for the Olympics. World travelers here. We're all just getting back.
Bobby was gone for like 2 months, it felt like. Every time I looked, he was in a new country.
Stateside, as they said. Yeah, Bobby went. Bobby made the rounds. Yeah.
Yeah, and we covered the Olympic run. Yeah, I did what I could out there. So that was fun. That was one of the more fun Olympic basketball runs you can probably ever remember. So that was cool to be around. Got to go to some of the events. I know Jimmy did too. It was a perfect city, I felt like, for the Olympics. Everything was so unique in terms of the settings. As you mentioned, Jimmy, you did the beach volleyball thing under the Eiffel. The basketball arena was pretty cool, pretty tight. The crowds, especially in all the events that had French participants, and obviously France was in both of the finals, crazy. And the track atmosphere was incredible. Like that was must-see stuff, especially because you had mixes of people from every country and athletes from every country in those kind of competitions. So that was really cool. Glad we did it. There was a ton to see in the city, obviously, too.
It was amazing.
A lot going on in the city. It was an awesome thing.
And you brought back Yabu.
Yeah.
That was the craziest thing of all. It's just the Yabu dunk on LeBron, and then it was like, oh wow, this guy's still doing his thing. I'll tell you what though, him being the man in like Paris, that's a pretty damn good life, man. I gotta tell you, being in Paris and being like the man in Paris, you can go sign with an NBA team, but I'll tell you what, it was kind of it was tough coming back here. I'll be honest. I love America, don't get me wrong, but I'm like cruising around like Wendy's and Dunkin' Donuts like 12 hours later. I'm like, damn, this is
it's a sad reality check. Yeah, I bit into a fruit today and I was like, this doesn't taste like food. You know, like
oh man. But Paris was unreal. I agree with you, Bobby, and maybe we're a little biased, but I think there's a lot of facts. But I think when you look back or look, years from now, if you look back, they'll say that Paris was one of the best venues for the Olympics. It just was unbelievable.
Yeah, and they had some snafus. The river wasn't great.
Doesn't. You know what though? That's the other thing. Like nobody gives a shit. Like when you're there, I didn't hear one complaint about that stuff. It's all just like what you see on Twitter and like if you see a video on Instagram being like, "Here's why the Olympics were a complete disaster." It's like it's a complete farce. Like none of that is true. There was no riots. There was no issues. Nobody was complaining. Everything was just amazing.
I went
sitting on our computers being like, "Oh, look how bad it is over there." It's like
It's so
awesome.
ridiculous. I went to 2004 Olympics, and that was like the first one post 9/11, and like everyone was worried about the security, and there was like these special reports about like how shoddy it was, and it was because that's how Greeks operate, and it's fine. And like one reporter was doing a live stand up. He's like, "This is me walking right into this venue where the track and field is going to be held. No one has stopped me, and here I go." And it was like, "Oh, it's going to be the worst." And Sochi, the accommodations were bad for the app. There's always some horror story about something, and then it's like the awesomest thing in the world because it's the Olympics. Amazing. And it's friggin' cool.
Oh, the beds in the Olympic Village are not comfortable. It's like, who gives a shit, man? I don't care. This is amazing. And there were a lot. Bobby, you can probably back me up. There were tons of police in Paris. I mean, every second there were sirens. There were too many.
45,000.
There were too many sirens, and the sirens in Europe are a lot different than they are here. They're like, it's almost like a nuclear bomb's going off every time the sirens go off over there. But it was awesome. I don't want to spend 45 minutes talking about how awesome the Olympics were, but they were pretty sweet. And I watched the USA France final in like this dingy French sports bar, which was freaking awesome because like me and a few friends, like loud, probably obnoxious Americans, and all a bunch of local Parisians that are watching it, and we kind of took it over. But I know it's kind of old news now, but that Curry fourth quarter is just going to go down in history as like the greatest 5 minutes in basketball. I honestly can't give anything more entertaining. Everybody had the same exact reaction when that last 3-pointer went down. It was just like mayhem. Wherever you were watching it, it was just
almost everybody.
Almost everybody, but every USA fan.
Well, yeah, but except for every Celtics fan who experienced the Olympics a little bit differently.
Those are the people. Else. Yeah, some of them are probably watching, but like, this is why we can't have nice things, guys. This is why
it was
nice things.
It was one of the greatest games I've ever watched.
The cool thing about
Tatum
the Olympics.
Didn't play.
Yeah, but that's the cool thing about the Olympics. It's the one time you can get pumped when LeBron does something awesome or Curry does. If you're a Celtics fan and you refuse to cheer for any other team, you can at least for this one stretch feel good about something LeBron does or something.
I don't think people were looking at it that way though, and
but
that's not just Celtics
That's
fans.
The fun part about the Olympics. It's about the USA. It's not about Boston or it's not about Cleveland or it's not about LA. It's about the USA, man. So you got to freaking swallow your pride as a Celtics fan. So you know what? It wasn't about the Celtics. And by the way, who was more represented than the Celtics were in the Olympics? They had 3 guys, and I understand that people are unhappy about Tatum's lack of playing time, but suck it up. That's just the way it goes, man. And you know what? None of that's playing time is it's not deserved. It's earned. And for whatever reason, they didn't feel like Tatum earned it. And you can't argue with what happened. They won the freaking gold medal. So what are we going to do? Complain about a bunch of decisions that they made and they won the gold medal?
And yes, I understand. It's a tired. It's a tired
overcovered.
It's a tired, overcovered story, but some of us didn't get a shot to talk about it. So we're gonna rehash some stuff that's happened over the last few weeks just to get it off, just for our, to put it out there for the record. But we're not gonna sit here and beat on them for a little while.
No,
beat on the whole thing for a little while. But I am curious how some things spin forward. So we'll do a little Olympic kind of post-mortem-ish going forward. It is the slowest point in the Celtics calendar now. And you know what? How lucky have we been, by the way? Like, just in terms of being able to talk basketball, how long did it go? You go into the finals, then you've got, post-finals discourse, which is great, rolling right into the draft and into Summer League and into the Olympic stuff. And then the Tatum controversy with him being sat in the first game. And then just everything just goes friggin' bananas. And then, the Jaylen Brown storylines, Derek White added to the team, and then just what was really fun basketball to watch in addition to that, plus some juicy Celtic storylines, carries us way, way, way into the summer beyond what we deserved to be able to have in terms of coverage.
That's been a couple of years.
And that's been really neat. Yeah, that's been really neat. We'll talk about JB's rap song too, and his new sneakers and his what
did you listen to
Waterworld workouts.
I listened to it you know what it was? It's like it was 2 mornings ago. Like I woke up and it's like a rap song.
It was everywhere.
I'm like getting ready for work. I'm like, I turned it on. I'm like, I gotta get ready for work, dude. I can't.
It didn't have great pace to it. No.
You know what? Though?
I wish. Good
for him, man. He's doing some stuff that he wants to do. I'm a little. We'll get into
The
it.
video was good.
Sure. You're Bobby. I'm going to defer to you. You're like the big rap guy on the
You're
show.
Mr. Hip
You and
Hop.
Joe Sway.
Yeah.
Look at me. I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to sit here and dish about rap music. I'm just not. Nobody wants to hear that. I do like hip hop though. I'm a Drake guy over what's the other one there? The
I
other
think
guy.
what you can say is for a guy just walking.
Help me out though. Kendrick, thank you, John. I'm a Drake over
Yeah.
Kendrick guy. I know a lot of people aren't going to like that. So I already know that I'm playing from behind already. I've never been a Kendrick guy. I don't like his voice. So that's kind of hard if you're a rapper. If I don't like the sound of your voice, it's not even about the lyrics at that point. I just don't want to hear you. No offense. Yeah. I think I'm in the minority there, but I'm a Drake guy. Give me back to back.
I think what Jalen did was the equivalent of going out, playing in the NBA game. You know, you're not really an NBA player, but you look like you belong out there. You're not really doing anything, but it doesn't look awful. Like you're just on the court for the first time. You're not scoring. You're not really involved at all, but you're not getting killed out there either. So that's how it went for him.
That's how it went for. Wait, say that again.
It was the equivalent of someone just walking into an NBA game, not getting killed. You're not getting destroyed out there. You've never played an NBA game, but you're not really doing anything either. So
that's Jalen's song.
Yeah, that's Jalen's song.
Yeah, I think he's easing into it. He's easing into it. He's not going like, he's not going full in. You know what? Good for him. He's got to find something to do. He's not getting invited to any basketball event, so he might as well, kill some time. Stay busy.
And that's what we're doing.
Swimming at the bottom of the pool.
We're paying bills. We're saying hi again. We're going to take some questions from you guys as the show rolls on, and we'll just recap a little bit here. But where do you guys want to start? I think we're going to start back at the Olympics a little bit here.
Let's do that.
And I'm not sitting here. I'm not regurgitating anything that happened during it. For the record, I will say I think Celtics fans did embarrass themselves a little bit with how they handled what went on with Jason Tatum during the Olympics thing, because I do think you cost yourself the enjoyment of watching some really fun basketball. And as Jimmy put,
played yourself.
You're being able to like root for something that was really freaking cool. You're talking about the three greatest players of their generation teaming up.
Special, man.
Durant, LeBron, and Curry. And
old guys. The old heads, awesome.
Man. A bunch of OGs go out there and they freaking get it done.
One last ride? You kidding me?
It was awesome and fun to watch and competitive. That Serbia basketball game is the best Olympic men's USA basketball game that's ever been played. Extremely fun, dramatic, great finish, and all we're doing is pouting over Jason Tatum not playing. I thought that sucked. So the reaction to it bothered me more than anything about it. I think people lost sight of things, and I think it's not just Celtics fans, it's NBA agendas. NBA fan agendas across the league. Everyone's got them. It's not unique to this market, but the Celtics being who they are, Tatum being such a polarizing player, and it becoming just a part of the national/international discourse really changed how, really kind of elevated into a big thing. And I get it. I get the arguments for. I get the whole thing. I just thought it was a little bit embarrassing, for the way it was reacted to. That's my take. The bigger thing I'm curious about now is I think everyone's kind of has moved on and decided that the Jason Tatum is going to be motivated by this, and it's going to here comes a revenge tour. Do you guys agree or disagree with that? That a Jason Tatum revenge tour is coming because of his snubs and disrespect here at the Olympics and how all of that was handled?
I think it prevents him from being passive going into the year, resting on the championship. It gives him something, I think, to build on and use as some fire. Now, I think Jalen's probably someone who's going to build on what happened to him more than Tatum will here, but it gives you something to grasp onto, right? Because if everyone was singing his praises, Jimmy, if everyone was saying he's the best, if everyone was saying you got it done, this solidifies you as one of the best ever, you're probably strolling into the season with a little less motivation.
Didn't even have really a good run.
So yeah, he comes off the summer. Everyone's saying it was an awful run. He played terrible. Brown was the MVP over him. And then this Olympic thing happened. So is it going to vault him into having the best season of any player in the league this year? Probably not. He's pretty far down the MVP odds again when you look at it, but I feel pretty good about him responding to this the right way. And with him, it's a little more even keeled, right? He's just going to do what he always does. He's going to continue to work the same way he always does, as he often says here. So I'm not expecting him to come out and take every shot and have this rage-filled season where he's averaging 34. But I expect him to take another step this year. And I hope the step is playing the right way, continuing to do everything he's doing, because as much frustration as we've had with his play style and the production over the last year or so here, he's been incredibly effective. So I want to see him continue to attack by passing, maybe play a little closer to the basket. I've been saying that over and over again. I think in the stints we saw him with this USA team, he actually tried to do that. But the big thing's the shot, John, and motivation or not, or pissed off or not, can he fix that? Because if that stays where it was in the playoffs, and obviously it was only 10 shots with USA here, that's going to be a problem for this group. And
I think the final tally through the whole Olympic run was 0 for 18, I believe,
including the scrimmages,
including the tune-ups. Yeah,
Never hit a shot, huh?
never hit a jumper.
A 3, yeah. Oh, jump shots overall.
All
yeah.
jump shots. The threes were whatever. I think and maybe it was just the Olympic run. I think it was bad. It was bad. But I mean, it's almost like the entire Olympic run was one bad game continuous, like it just felt like it was just one of those games he can't find it, but it lasted like
and so that's the thing, is he just cold and it's an extended cold spell? Is there something wrong? I think that's what we're trying to grasp, and everyone I keep talking to says it's just a cold spell. You go through it, you break out of it. He's going through that right now, but this is a long one.
I don't even know. Like, it's separate for me. Like, the Olympics are its own thing. Like, I'm not continuing the cold
because he barely played.
He barely played.
Yeah, you're not playing much.
NBA,
you're not getting into rhythm. You're not putting up 18 shots a game to shoot yourself out of a slump.
He had a Neesmith situation.
Start 0 for 7 and he finishes 9 for 19, and you're like, oh, okay, that was all right. Are you drinking like a Belgian white?
Iced tea.
Oh, okay. Did you put a slice of orange in it?
No, that's lemon.
Let's see it. Show us. Yeah, that's a beer. That's a Belgian. Yep. That's
my contention is that almost anything you put a slice of
Who
lemon
puts
in,
ice in a beer?
A slice of orange is better.
Magners. A cider beer would have some ice in it.
All right, I'll have to try that.
I have a few different points. The first.
All right, go ahead. You can start anywhere.
I'm going to piggyback off of Bobby. The points they're all over the place, which is probably not surprising, but I'll piggyback off what Bobby was talking about cold streak. Again, I don't like, and John, you said it. I mean, we're talking about a cold streak. The NBA finals have zero effect on the Olympics. The Olympics have, I don't want to say zero effect because I do have a point about that later, but it's not one prolonged cold streak. I think the situation he was put in, the role he was put in, obviously was one that he's not used to, right? I mean, he went from a DNPCD in the first game to, starting the next one, quick hook. He's going to defer a lot more because he's looking around and seeing other superstars around him. If people think that it's going to be a big chip on his shoulder and all this stuff, I hope so. I haven't really seen that as him being that type of guy. I know that these players seem to thrive off negativity. I'm trying to think of a guy, a superstar player, that won an NBA title and his stock took a hit other than Jason Tatum. Because it feels like that's what's happened. Feels like he's borderline, he's like, I don't want to say the laughing stock, but when it comes to superstars, he's like the cheap joke right now. This guy just won an NBA finals.
Isn't it weird?
It's so weird. His stock has gone down after winning the finals.
I said that after the finals. It's remarkable.
But it got even worse, John. I mean, this is before the Olympics. The Olympics has made it worse. Now they're going to go into the regular season. There's going to be some doubts surrounding his shot and his, play and whether or not he can, prove. He's got to still prove to people that he's better than what he was. And now they have to win a second one to prove that the first one wasn't a fluke. So it is interesting that, he went on and won this title, and it feels like he's extremely proud, as he should be. I mean, I've seen a lot of quotes about him, talking about how important it was and winning a title, and now no one can say he didn't and all this stuff. All true. but he's going to find out very quickly that nobody gives a shit as soon as that ball is tipped. Game 1 of this season. It's great.
That's what Joe says,
thanks.
right?
Sure, and it's true. And so you can rest on your laurels all you want personally, but nobody else is going to think that way. So it's going to be back to reality real fast. So the other point I want to make, and maybe it's, one thing I'll say about Denver is when they won, they talked about how hard it was for them to repeat because of how much effort it took to win that first title. And that didn't even include the Olympics. So not only did the Celtics just do what Denver did the year prior by winning the NBA finals and, going deep into the playoffs and all that stuff, 3 of their best players went to the Olympics. So it hasn't been a very restful offseason for a lot of these guys. Now they're going to be expected to come back and do it all over again. 3 of their most important players have been, traveling, in Europe, practicing games, going out, probably partying a little bit now that they did win the Olympics. And, hopefully they're getting some rest now, but it's a quick off season for some of these guys. And it's going to be a long regular season. So it's going to be interesting.
I don't think the Olympics is that physically taxing. I think it's a bit of a vacation taxing, with some basketball mixed in. But yeah.
Well, Denver didn't have anything. And they said how difficult, they ran out of gas. We saw what happened in Denver. They ran out of gas.
Tatum didn't accumulate too many extra minutes here.
No, he didn't. But what about the stress? What about just the mental side of it? I mean, he can't just go disappear to Cabo. He's going to deal with all this other scrutiny and all this other backlash. And I'm sure he's human. I'm sure he's on social media and he's seeing all the trolls out there. And there's a lot of them. There's more than there ever has been, believe it or not. And I don't know, that can take a toll on you. And it's only going to get louder and louder. Every game that he doesn't perform the way people think he should, and he's under the microscope now with his shot. It's going to be interesting to me to see how he handles that.
How should he respond, John?
It's not how should. Honestly, how should, like nothing ever happened. Like just walk around with the big swinging, and just act like you won the title. Like Jimmy said to the bye haters, at the end.
We knew what was coming.
Is it's coming. To me, don't respond to it. It makes it sound like, don't say it was challenging and I was on the cover of NBA 2K and I thought I should play more. That makes you look soft. I want him to just be like, look, man, we're here to win the Olympic gold, and that's what
right
we
here.
Did.
Do what Clay used to do. Point to the ring.
Thrilled. Look at this. Look at the medal around my neck. Look at the ring I've got on my finger. Bye-bye, losers, and just rise above
haters.
It. Yeah. I hate. Like I don't respond to it. Just
I'll tell you what.
Like KD drove himself crazy for 3 years, like trying to fight people on the easy way out.
And he didn't win. He didn't win the battle against the trolls.
The narrative is going to be what it's going to be. Go out there and just play, win another one, and shut everybody up. But don't sit there and say what you deserve and what you should be, and people don't respect me and blah, blah, blah. Because then that just makes people do it more.
That's it.
That's it. It's so easy. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear how challenging it was and humbling. Like, it might have been, but don't act that way because it exposes you. Yeah,
it's coming. That's the exact. That's
so.
Like
that's how I would react if I were him. Like nothing happened. Like, okay.
And that's the only thing that matters here. Yeah. We've said it already. Don't question your approach through every step of the way here. Because even in the Olympic run, and he didn't play well. There's some things he should have done better, especially early. But he still took a conciliatory approach, which I think is what he took with the Celtics team, got everybody involved, made passes out of traffic, didn't worry too much about his shooting percentage. And that's the balance I've always had with him is, all right, you're fine with the bad night. You're not going to do anything any differently. You're just going to turn the page.
What was he supposed to do? What was he supposed to do in the Olympics?
Sometimes that would frustrate me because, you like to see a little more sense of urgency out of him sometimes, at least with his pace and how he plays.
Well, you look around, you see Curry, you see LeBron, you see these guys that are clearly taking the reins, whether or not it was discussed internally.
And he understood that.
Exactly. So you got to give him credit for knowing his role, right? Know your role, shut your hole.
Yeah. I don't know.
He didn't know his role. His role
I don't think he knew his role. I think he didn't know where to be. I think he didn't know what to do.
Well,
and then,
what I mean by that is he just didn't get in the way. All right.
And then he was a little bit clearly concerned with I don't think I'm supposed to just take it and try to cook this guy here. And so he wasn't doing that. But then when he did, he wasn't really, the low point for me wasn't the shooting. It's when he like couldn't get around like Yabusele.
Yabusele, he had him at the free throw line.
He
That was
can't
the
get
play that drove
around
me
Yabu, and he's got to
craziest.
friggin' use his forearm. I'm like, he couldn't do anything. So
There were
I'm
some
not
guys
even
on
into that.
Australia who had him caught up. That was worrisome.
He couldn't get around guy. He couldn't do anything. He was all out of sorts. I just don't think he was just all out of sorts. I'm not even going back on it. He wasn't great. It doesn't matter.
No.
It's what happens moving forward. And I don't care. I think the motivation, I think the whole Tatum revenge tour thing is so overplayed. I don't think that that's a thing. I think
not how he is wired.
It's not how he was wired. Yeah. I don't see it.
7 assists per game, 2 turnovers a game. That's what you want. Whether you're shooting 28 from 3 or 37 from 3, which he was during the regular season last year. So I don't think we're on this years-long run of him not being able to shoot, which is good. He can get back to what he did last regular season, last postseason even. But the challenge is you don't have Porzingis there. So there's not this easy outlet. Maybe some guys around you are going cold. At that point, what are you doing?
So here's what I wonder, and this is what I wondered during the finals, and I'll get into it, a little bit. But I am curious a couple of things about Jason Tatum going forward. I think it's crazy overreaction for anybody out there who's saying like, dude, he can't shoot anymore. Like I think that's dumb.
He takes tough shots. So I went into the numbers, John. When you looked at his postseason, he shot 40% from 3 on wide open shots, shot 40% from 3 on open shots from 3, but he shot 10% when it was contested, and that was what destroyed him.
Yeah. So I have a thought about Tatum entering next season. Just how things are going to go for him, because you mentioned the Porzingis thing, and I'm just curious after having seen, him through the playoffs. And the way teams decided to play him, if things might be a little bit different going forward. But we'll get into that in a little bit. I do want to tell people here at home, of course, about our terrific sponsor here at the Garden Report. And that, of course, is Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. And I've lost it again. Amit, where did I lose my ad read?
Cut this out. Cut this and do it over. We'll do
it live.
I'm
not doing it over. I refuse.
Is that Asian
but everybody
guy
knows now. You know what's really cool? What you can get in on right now on Prize Picks? You can get in on season-long NFL. Yards, whatever it is. You're picking more or less. You can do that for the season. You can also, again, the week 1 stuff is out. Pass yards, whatever it is, receiving yards. NFL action is right around the corner. It gets really fun here. So again, you want to get in for the NFL season here, and all you have to do, use that promo code CLNS, get up to 100. It's that easy. You can win up to 1,000 times your money. I mean, you can get after it here. You pick 2 to 6 players, more or less, on any particular stats, and then just watch the money roll in. And as we said, this special offer, $100 when you use that promo code CLNS, a deposit match. So you get in on that. Also, you want to get in on some tickets, you got to check out the Game Time app. You got to download that right now.
Football coming up.
Yeah. Again, you want to get, I got to say, I don't think Pat's tickets are going to be that tough to get.
I was going to say you can get it for very cheap on Game Time app, I imagine.
Yeah.
Extremely cheap. We should do a Pats minute at the end.
We are going to talk a little Pats too. I guarantee that. But download that Game Time app. Create an account right now. Use that code CLNS. $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. And again, get in on all of your favorite games, concerts, whatever it is. Check it out. All you have to do is download that app. It's all there. Prices go down as you get closer to game time.
I do love the Game Time app. Yeah, I'm
in love with it. I think it's awesome. It really is awesome, and like the features to it.
It's
the last
easy to
deals,
see like where your seats are.
Flash deals. The layout, where it is, and also the panoramic view.
You need that for baseball and concerts.
I'm gonna use it for Oasis. Can I use it for Oasis in England? Or?
Yes, concerts is huge, and so it's awesome. It's an awesome app. So again, download it, create the account, code CLNS, $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. So I want to get back to the Tatum thing. Does he just? I'm just going to get back to it real quick. I am curious with Porzingis out so this is what I thought Dallas did wrong in the finals, and I do wonder why. Like Jason Tatum.
I haven't thought about them once since the freaking NBA
Me too.
finals.
I almost forgot that's who they played.
I forgot they played. Oh man,
we were talking about the road trip and like the hotel Bobby stayed in, and someone was like, "Oh, that place Bobby stayed in Dallas was brutal," and I was like, "Yeah, that's right. We were in Dallas." I literally almost forgot that's who they played.
Yeah.
Such an afterthought finals team. It's like, you know.
It's like,
but anyway,
Red Sox, Rockies.
Red Sox, Rockies.
Who they play? The Rockies.
Patriots, Panthers.
Yeah.
You know. So anyway, just back to this. What I thought Dallas did wrong, like Tatum did what he did because he was the pressure he had to. They were throwing bodies at him. They were double teaming him. They were, they had guys waiting for him at the rim. The key, like every team's defensive game plan was don't let Tatum beat you. And I thought Dallas really made a huge mistake there where I would have gone in the opposite direction and said, Tatum doesn't seem to be shooting really well right now. I'm going to make him beat me.
Yeah, we had Mannix on right before I went away, and he was saying some of the people on the Dallas side regretted that.
I thought it the whole series, and I think that was their fatal flaw. And I think every team kind of approached it that way. So I do wonder, after having watched Tatum in the finals, and then if you take snapshots off of the Olympics here, and you start to think, you know what? I might let him try to beat me one-on-one. I'm going to see if he can. I don't know if that 2021 Jason Tatum deadly pullback, 49 point, anytime he wants it guy is there right now. He's become a more well-rounded player, but can he still just beat you on his own? Can he take over a game? The answer is probably yes, but I think I would, if I'm teams, I would dare him to do that. I would play him straight up until he does it. I would not make the game plan. So I do wonder if Tatum starts seeing just the other team's best defenders more often. And again, the reason why it doesn't work in the regular season is how many teams have even one guy that can stay in front of a Tatum or a Brown, let alone two. How many teams start fewer than two guys who are defensive liabilities? Not that many, right? Celtics are the reason the Celtics can cook in the regular season, I think, and why it changes in the playoffs is you're always going to find mismatches all over the court. So you're going to find it. It doesn't matter who they start on him. You're going to find your guy and you're going to find your matchup, and then you're going to go, and then you're going to have to double him. But I do wonder if people change how they approach playing him and guarding him and see if he can beat them one-on-one, especially now that Porzingis is out. I think last year was easier on Tatum and Brown because they're playing 5 out. Everybody out there could shoot. Anybody out there at any point in time could carry the load offensively. And it was easier. It was an easier offense to play, and the reads were easier. The drive and kick game was easier because it was just the lineups that they had out there at all times. Porzingis being out, and Tatum being
here's the thing, John.
I wonder if it changed. I wonder if people look at it a little different.
Dallas did what they did against them. Indy did the opposite, essentially, because they never help. And he had 30 a game, shot 46. He didn't shoot great from 3, but he had 30 and 10 in that series. So sometimes his scoring ends up being a little more subtle than you think it is, because you look up and it's like, 25, 30. It's those lows he goes through that drive you crazy.
But this is what I would do, what Joseph says right here. I would say go pull up and shoot those jumpers all friggin'. I don't care who's guarding him. Go ahead. I'll even play off you a little bit. I'll take a step back and you can pull up and shoot that jumper all friggin' day. That's what I would have. I would do that all day on him.
What he's done well, Jimmy, and we'll go back to the original question here. Does he get too much scrutiny? He does in my mind, because I think he's diversified his game. You had the passing. The rim play for him has gotten so much better, especially when it's available to him or it is one-on-one coverage like John's talking about here. I think he's able to take advantage of things on a fairly consistent basis. Now, it's not scrutiny, but it's a high bar he's held to, right? Because he wants to be MVP. I'm sure he wants to be considered the best player in the league. I don't know if he said as such, but I'm sure that's part of his motivation. So, and with his fans and Celtics fans in general, you consider him, I don't know, top 5 as we debate sometimes, or I'm sure some Celtics fans think he's the best. that's where a bad night, a slow shooting stretch, those things matter. And the consistency with him, I think, is what you're looking for into this next season of his career, his age 27 season, is for him to be brutally consistent, to make good decisions over and over and over again. And that's not just with the passing, that's with the shot selection. And Jimmy, right now, I think the biggest weakness in his game, and John talks about it a lot too, his shot selection can be shoddy. And I think even the Celtics coaching staff knows that. And he just does so many other things that you let a guy get away with a couple of bad. Like every star has flaws, right? Whether it's personality or leadership or their game. His flaw is that he'll take a handful of bad shots tonight, and he really just needs to cut out one or two of those. I don't think Tatum's
What's his
far from
strength
being
then?
what we want him to be.
Every star has a flaw, but every star has to have a thing.
I think it's the width of his game. He can do everything, and not many
That's
players
the
can do
problem.
that.
That's the problem. He's like if it was Mario Kart, he'd
You
be
know
like
what
a
you wanna
four
say, you
across
just
the
can't-
board.
You're struggling with the expression, but I know what you want to say.
Yeah, no, it was like if it's like Mario Kart,
Jack
like
of all trades, master of none sort of thing, but it's not quite.
right.
It's not
Right.
quite. But that's the problem is he's not a fancy boy, right? You know, like he's not Luca. And so, but he can do so many more things than Luca does.
He's also not like, he hasn't been super clutch, right? So it's like, and listen, this isn't unique to Tatum. First of all, he's a Boston Celtic. So right off the bat, he's going to be hated on more than any other, I would say.
I think it's part of it.
Most organizations are not hated as much as the Boston Celtics from other NBA fans. And that's been the case for a long, long time, long before Tatum. Okay. Let's talk about Paul Pierce. You want to talk about a player that was loved, overly loved by Celtics fans and absolutely despised by every other NBA fan, thought that he was overrated, thought that he was too much of a, talker, thought that he didn't deserve the recognition that he got. Celtics fans love the guy, most of them, not John. Celtics fans loved him. But you know what Pierce was? He was a killer. He was a clutch player, and he would shut
I just think he's a buffoon. I like the player. Yeah.
He would shut other fans up by hitting a game winner, right? He was that guy. He'd get to a sweet spot, he'd hit the shot, he'd jaw it back into your face or whatever. Tatum doesn't do that as much, but he still takes a lot of heat because Celtics fans are so loud and proud about how good he is, and NBA fans just don't get it. So they're going to be just as loud in the opposite direction. So Tatum's kind of just stuck in the middle, taking a ton of fire. Probably doesn't deserve as much as he gets, but he's also probably not as great as a lot of Celtics fans want to make him out to be. If what you say, Bobby, is that some Celtics fans think he's the best player in the league or a top three, probably not what a lot of NBA fans would say.
But some of it's superficial. Like he's a little mumbly, he's a little corny. You know, the whole like the celebration stuff. He got killed
Anthony
on
Edwards.
A little bit. He doesn't have that blazing. Edwards has that awesome personality, so people want to like him. So like he's a little tougher in that regard. So I think some people around the league, but then it's like, again, I think where he gets lost is, I think the entire finals of Celtics fans and people who know ball having to explain why Tatum was good is where the argument gets lost right away. Is like the visceral response. The visceral response NBA fans have to his game oftentimes is like, him? That guy? You're telling me he's a top 5 guy? Because if it's unimpressive, if the shot's not falling, if he's not like just lighting guys up offensively, you can look at some of the other stuff, but it's like, he's not a Jokic level passer. Rebounds are rebounds. He's a plus defender, but like you have to add it all up to get a good aggregate score at the end of the day to say like he did a lot. But when you have to make that case, you have to argue it. Yeah, then you have to use stats and numbers and this and that to show. It's a difficult argument to make because people are responding to what they see and it's emotional. And this is not to say they're right. It's just to say that's what he's up against all the time. And that's why I think he gets scrutinized, because he's not an impressive high flyer when he's not shooting daggers in people's eyes with those pull-ups like he did at different stretches of his career. He doesn't have that Kobe mystique or the James Harden sort of thing, which is like, how do you friggin' defend this guy? He's just going to step back and put it in your eye. When that's not falling, he's a tougher guy to kind of wrap your mind around. And I think that's how fans respond to it. Then you watch a finals run where he's like just not shooting well, and you're like, that's the best player. This is a top 5 guy. I don't see it. And people also want to not see it because they want to knock people who are at the top down. So you're fighting against a lot there, and I think that's what ends up happening. Yeah,
they're ready to pounce.
They're looking for flaws, right?
If you have to explain it, you've already lost the argument. Show me, don't tell me. When it comes to why is he a superstar? Oh, well, I don't know. Here, watch this. No, don't. I don't want 1,000 words on why he's actually great. I don't want that. I just want to see it with my own 2 eyes. I'm not an idiot. So don't try to, explain to me why actually he is better than what I think.
Well,
I'm not gonna read. Yeah, exactly. That's
it's tough because
that's why NBA fans feel the way they do. And
yeah, sometimes it's just as simple as like, I just give me the friggin' ball, get out of my way, and I'm gonna make it happen, sort of thing. And like that's kind of what some people
some of it has to do with the way he does it. Sometimes he does make it, like when he does something great, he does kind of make it look easy. That's just the way he is. Like I would love to see him drive more. I would love to see him be more aggressive. I would like to see him throw down a little bit harder, do all those things. Play angrier. Play like with more emotion.
He drove a ton in the finals, but again,
right. But I think I would still like to see him do it more. And like this is just me personally. I love seeing guys play emotional out there. That gets me fired up. Gets me behind them. That's why I think a lot of fans gravitate towards Jaylen Brown over Tatum in some cases, because Jaylen Brown could flip that switch and play with emotion all of a sudden, just unleash on somebody, right? I don't think it's as maybe consistent as it could be, but he can have that ability to do that more than a lot of guys can. And there are some players in the league, a Brunson, for example, who just plays with that emotion on his sleeve. And I know Brunson's got his warts too, and he's a point guard. So what?
I keep going back to this. And again, when we always talk about, are we going to see top 5 Tatum tonight? That's what people are talking about. This right here, that guy who went down that string in 21, 20, whatever it was, pre-bubble, and just could, and it was like, this is ridiculous. And
everyone keeps running back those highlights still.
Just dropping it. And it's like, I always use that golf analogy, which is like, just because you shot 78 one time, but you averaged, like, you got to be that guy. Like, they keep looking back at something that hasn't been consistent for a little while now, and that's the thing, is like, this is what separated him, and took him to that other offensive level. And then when the other game got well-rounded, if he was still dropping buckets like this, he'd be the best player in the NBA right now. But this came down and everything else went up. Now you're looking at a more well-rounded player, but he's actually less impressive to the eye than he was a few years ago when he was just a bucket machine. And that's the difference. And that's where you're struggling, is he has gotten better all around. But if he does this, he's the best player in the league. He's not right now. And that's what separated him. People saw that scoring and thought, when the other stuff comes around, forget about it. But if the scoring leaves him a little, we've talked about the importance of being able to generate your own offense and be a terrific, elite level, individual scorer. And of course he still is a shot creator, but he's got to be an elite shot maker in order to be that guy. And if it doesn't return to him in some form as an elite shot maker, both with the pull-ups, and the pull-ups open up the ability to be able to get by guys, he's going to be stuck in that in that world where you have to explain his greatness to people as opposed to just being able to see it. And I think that's going to continue to be the case.
What doesn't help him either is they've pushed him toward an incredibly analytical approach too, right? And that's not always the most exciting thing to watch. We talk about that on baseball, like aesthetically, there's very few baseball players that stand out because the sport's just gone so analytical, and basketball has gone that way in many respects too. And you think of the players who have taken on the most methodically analytical approach. Harden's a big one, right? People don't love Harden. People don't love his approach, but he plays the game in a
Harden. Please stop.
Well, I'm just saying, what if they made Tatum take tons and tons of threes? That drives people crazy. The free throw shootings come around for him in a big way. I think that's been important for him. But in terms of just putting the ball up and putting it in the net from all over the floor over and over again, that's not always there for him. And I think aesthetically, or at least in terms of being able to stay in the game consistently, you don't see a floater from him, right? The mid-range game for him has kind of disappeared. It was never really there, but he's gone away from it for the most part. So those things for him.
So does Joe need to, like, that's the thing. It's like, so if
this
it's
is the
now
debate we've had ever since Joe's taken over. Is he too rigid
Right.
with the way he uses Tatum?
But you can't argue that case. They won an NBA title and Missoula coached
Right.
his ass off. So like,
So do you
Tatum,
like the fact that, oh, it didn't look great and it wasn't cool, but they won the title? Or
I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But like,
Right.
no, I mean, because that's not my thing. It's like, I'm not
Right.
in here, you know, for the, you know, to lift the Celtics players up to standard, like certain standards, and get people to say things, nice things about them and like them. Like, I'm about the wins, you know, like
He did his job this year.
I mean, you're not, who's going to scrutinize? It's almost it's analogous to Steve Kerr. We're really going to talk about Steve Kerr's personnel decisions. They won a gold medal. Like, I mean, I know they're
Well, he's a
supposed to.
dink, though. That's the thing.
The Celtics won a championship. They were supposed to. The road in front of them was easy, and they cruised. What the hell differently are you going to do there all season long? So this is what amazed me about Missoula. Missoula got he got the type of, like, I think he deserves a level of deference from the media and fans that normally only comes after years and years of success, because everything he was trying to do was absolutely proven to be correct, despite how many people railed on against it and thought he should be fired. Like, he absolutely had it right. He knew exactly what they needed to do to win. He was almost Belichickian in that regard. I really do think the comparisons, it's crazy to compare him to the greatest coach in any sport of all time.
He was amazing.
But his insistence in, I know what it's going to take to win. Just do what I say, and if you do it, we'll win, was freaking right. And so I
they made it look easy by falling.
And
at 16-3.
Yeah, and so I don't know how you complain. I don't know how you complain about it at all. I mean, me being one of these people is like, Joe was more about style and attitude for me. I didn't know if he had the temperament, you know, to be able to handle this when things got to the way they got. And I didn't know if his rigidity would keep him from being able to in-game manage when things got a little bit trickier, or if people kind of figured out this is what they're doing, what else you got? He was awesome. So I'm not going to complain that Tatum's overall individual game suffered, nor do I think anybody else should.
Yeah.
But you're right, though. Like, you do wonder, if he wants to get more out of Tatum, does he need to show a little bit more flex? Is there a higher level the team can hit?
Well, Tatum wants more flexibility.
If you open up a little bit more from him now that they've won a title, is he going to say, like, hey, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. What changes now that they won one? Are the players going to say, okay, well, everybody got theirs. Now I'm going to try to get mine, or I'm going to keep the ball here.
The good news is they got their money. Usually that's where that stems from. Everybody got their money here.
Everybody got paid for sure.
Here's another good point here that Jason puts up. I don't dismiss this, and I agree with this. I think it is.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't, Bobby.
To be clear, the walrus was Jason. We're not sure that this is Jason.
The walrus was Jason. I don't dismiss it. I just think you can't. It's not a 1-for-1. You can't be good at defense and good at offense, and it's like, oh well, that guy's good at defense, he's good at offense. They're both good players. Like, no, the ability to to create your own shot and be an elite shot maker is the number one skill and the hardest skill, and that's why it's valued the most. And the defense is great, but it's not as valuable as that. That being said, when you play it at an elite level and you're a star, it raises your overall standing 100%. Most stars, they don't play that level of defense that Brown and Tatum did throughout the playoffs very late into their careers. They are reaching that kind of honeymoon phase here, which is kind of like, so I'm kind of a star. Can I do more offense and less defense now? Because this is exhausting. Mm-hmm. And it really is. Like, can we expect this same level of defensive commitment from these guys going forward now that they've both gotten paid, both won a championship? And I'm not saying like they're going to get complacent and lazy, but it's like, this is kind of how it works. Like, even the best two-way players, they kind of sag off a little bit on the defensive end put effort when it matters, but they're not bringing it all 48 for all 82.
No,
They
especially
can't
they're not going to want to do it if
they can't.
if it means getting shit on by every freaking fan in the NBA because it's contributing to their lack of offense, whether or not it is. But at some point, they're going to say, "Hey, f this, man. I'm taking this play off because so is every other star in the league, by the way." And they're
You can't
getting
do it
on
at
every
26 and
But
27.
is
Highlight reel
this
and-
as Jimmy J puts here, is this a flip the switch in March season? And we've talked about switch flipping, right? It doesn't always work.
Flip the switch.
Yeah.
2 years ago, they couldn't.
No, and I think that's why it's going to be all the more important for Brown and Tatum this year, because I think last year they set a tone in many ways with their approaches in different areas of the game, and I think guys followed suit. And White and Holiday, those kind of guys got a lot of credit. But if Tatum and Brown are slacking or their attention to detail or consistency isn't there, I don't think White and Holiday and those kind of guys can make up for that. Certainly without Porzingis out, you don't have that guy to make up for it. So a lot of it's going to be on Brown and Tatum, and they're 27, 28, healthy, athletic.
Healthy and wealthy.
I don't think there's any
what else can
excuse.
they ask for?
Yeah, I don't think there's any excuse for those guys to let up because they have to
Healthy,
be the
wealthy.
tone setters here. We've said it, John. Each year that comes, and this is part of the Tatum discussion, each year that passes here, they're going to have less and less of a supporting cast. These guys are getting older. Some of them are probably going to end up gone at a certain point, probably after next year. So more load goes on their shoulders. And that's where you get into the conversation when we stack up the best players in the league. How much can they carry? And Tatum's carried a lot in the past. Maybe this does translate into a bigger statistical year for him, the fact that a guy like Porzingis isn't out there. But it's going to be interesting to see how they manage it. I think that's such a big deal, Jimmy. I don't know how you feel about it. I know they went 31-6 without him last year or something like that. I think it's so different not having him for 4 straight months or whatever that's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
He was their release valve. He could sometimes take over and be their primary scorer if another guy was cold. And as much as I love Horford, and I don't really want to downplay Horford's effectiveness or how good he can be in that spot, but he's a different player. Horford's not at half court stretching centers out to the, mid-court line. He's not as lethal of a shooter at volume as I think Porzingis is over the course of a year. And he's 38, which, you are getting to an age there where it's all right, is there going to be any slippage here? Because there hasn't been, but he just played, 2,000 plus minutes last year alone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I think we need to emphasize a little more.
Yeah. No, listen, anytime you win a title, there's a lot of questions going into the season. Some of it has to do with how much do these guys have in them mentally, physically. You talk about Horford, just an older guy from an NBA standpoint, but he's a pro's pro. He's going to show up as ready to go as he possibly could. Tatum and Brown and, White and Holiday have had busy off seasons. They also play balls to the walls, right? So talk about guys who play hard in the defensive end. I mean, White and Holiday are the best defensive backcourt in the NBA. So they're not taking any plays off, regardless of what Tatum and Brown do out defensively. It's obviously a very cohesive unit on both sides. And that's why I think it was so important for this front office to bring everybody back. They know that this unit has enough to run it back and to win again. The talent is there. Certainly these guys are still at an age where they can compete at the highest of levels. The regular season is a bear, though. And I wouldn't expect, especially with Porzingis out, like you mentioned, Bobby, I would not expect the same level of dominance throughout the regular. Not even, to be honest, I don't even know if they'll end up as the 1 seed. And I don't know if they need to, as long as they still play cohesive, as long as they still play hard when, it matters the most. When Porzingis comes back, they show signs of, being able to be a strong 5-man unit starting lineup, which a lot of times last season, we couldn't get that for long stretches either, but in the playoffs, just enough, they were able to. So these are all the things you wonder. I'm personally not going to I'm saying this now, but I guess we'll see when the season starts. I'm not going to get too hung up on regular season record. But it's going to matter to me when they lose games. It's going to matter to me how they lose games. I don't want to see complete duds. I want to see these guys compete, and if they come up short, they come up short. I don't think they need to be playing 40 minutes plus, obviously, game in and game out, in order to end up with a specific seeding. I think these guys know who they are. They know they're good enough to win anywhere in the NBA, and home court can flip after game one. If the road team wins, it flips just like that. So don't want to put too much emphasis on the regular season. They need to make sure, like they did last season, that they're healthy going into the playoffs. These guys were all healthy going into the playoffs. Obviously, Porzingis got hurt during the playoffs, but going in, they were the healthiest team in the NBA.
Well, it's a good question because, John, I wonder what's more important this year, that Brown and Tatum maintain their production or even take a step forward, or that the depth guys on this team repeat what they did last year? Because they're obviously going to carry a heavy load during the regular season.
During the regular season, you can get contributions from those types of guys. I'm actually curious if Tillman with
Kata, Pritchard, Hauser, those guys, yeah.
I'd like to see Kata in this year and what he can do. You do have a rookie who might contribute some minutes. I actually think it's a good opportunity in the early stages to try some new things and not worry as much about wins and losses. And I do think Tillman, he was kind of battling knee stuff. He didn't look like he looked like a 48-year-old man at times last year. I think you're going to see a better version of him as well. And I think people will like what they see from him, because I think he's a better overall player than what we saw last year, even though in flashes he did well, but he was only playable at times. I think he'll be a more consistent contributor in Porzingis' absence, and people will feel okay about it. I'm not super worried about the early going. I'm more worried about what Jimmy said regarding the kind of burnout factor, because if those guys are out and you go out there and you try to play short rotations and win those games and start playing Tatum and Brown 38, 39 minutes a game, right, early on, I think you're going to die. Like
Horford's the big one, because he played 30 a game.
And you can't burn out Al either. So just
a lot of Cornet coming up.
Play Luke.
There'll be some Cornet starts.
We need a Cornet t-shirt. We're gonna need one. He's gonna have a couple big games.
Yeah. Use what you got. You were able to run it back in
He's your
full.
second center.
Plus you're adding, a rookie that you're hoping to work into the mix, hopefully early, and get them some actual minutes. Play these guys, and let the starters and the studs.
Do you have a system? Going back to your Belichick 34 comment,
minutes
John,
a game. Yeah.
Going back to your Belichick comment, are you plugging guys in every year, even second round picks, even guys who are more unsung like Kata, and having them impact winning each and every year? And they did that last year. I still look back at last year, and obviously the record without Porzingis was amazing, and they just won games no matter who was out. Didn't they go undefeated when Brown was out? And everybody
9-0 with Brown, but again, everybody but Derek White. They had White was 4-3 when he missed games. It was the only one, or 7-4.
They looked pretty bad when he was out. Yeah,
it was the only one that was that was the only one that was below their season winning percentage. I think when White was out, everybody else they still dominated.
Yeah, so I want to see if they have a system, if the role player performances are sustainable here. But your point's valid there too, John, because everything's going to flow from what Brown and Tatum do. I don't think those guys cannot give the commensurate effort, like the mandatory effort that you need to give in terms of their decision-making, their roles, and obviously their energy, and other guys can pick up the slack for them. I just don't think, even as awesome as White and Holiday were a year ago, I don't even think those guys are able to pick up for maybe an older version of Brown and Tatum, or the worst version of those guys. So they got to be their best. I think they set the tone last year, vocally and with what they were doing on the court. And even Joe, as great as he was, I think their buy-in is what allowed him to be great. So that stuff's all super important, probably more important than some of the other stuff we're kicking around here. So I agree with that.
No doubt. We're out of things to talk about with the Celtics, and we didn't have a ton, but we're going to keep doing Garden Reports, obviously, throughout the rest of the offseason as we head into the preseason and get things going. And they should start things a little earlier this year because they are making that trip to Abu Dhabi. Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow, we sending Bobby?
We're thinking about
Abu Dhabi,
going.
Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi.
That would be something.
Bobby, we gotta send Bobby.
But I did promise Jimmy that we were going to have a Patriots Minute on the show, and a Patriots Minute on the show we shall have. And I will ask you right now, everyone's opinion. Should Jacoby Brissett or Drake May be the opening day starting quarterback for the Patriots? Cut down day was today. I got to say, today was one of the saddest days in Patriots history when it didn't really matter who they kept and who they cut. Like both Andrew Callahan and Greg Bedard basically wrote the same thing. Both guys with excellent writers, excellent reporters, and excellent podcasts on the CLNS Media Network. Both kind of wrote like, there's really only 40 or so guys worth keeping. He's like, I can't get to 53. I can't even get there. Like, it's very possible of the 53 right now, the Patriots are going to grab like 6 guys off waiver. There's guys who are the 54th best player on their teams right now who will start for the Patriots. They have no blue chip players. They don't have a single player.
They have nothing to be excited about.
They don't have a single player here who's a top player at their position or even close to it, with Judon gone and Barmore on IR. Maybe Gonzalez, we'll see. This is the saddest roster.
What about Duggar? We don't think he's up there anymore.
Saddest roster I've ever seen. Yeah. Saddest roster I've ever seen. But the only thing that can save it is watching Drake May play a little quarterback. So you're telling me we're going to start. So again, I'll give you my opinion. What do you guys think should happen here? What are you doing here? Because everyone's really afraid to break Drake May's brain or his body behind this offensive line and this shitty team that they have this year. I don't think they're wrong. I don't think they're wrong.
Yeah, I'll go. Listen, first I want to say in Mayo I trust. I'm a Mayo guy. I'm going to give him I'm going to give him a chance.
You got to give him a chance, yeah.
Everyone is so critical of Mayo, and maybe he is saying a little too much. That's probably the one knock you can say is he probably is a little too forthcoming to the media, which we've been begging for out of the Patriots head coach for 25 years. But now this one is, and everyone wants to jump down his throat. If you're Gerard Mayo, you're not thinking as a fan. You're thinking of head coach of the Patriots. What's best for the team, not just tomorrow or today or week 1, but next year and the year after. For me, I'm starting Brissett. I know that it's not the sexy pick. It's boring. He may only last 2 drives before he gets hurt. But what's the point in throwing Drake May in there when you already know, John, you just said it's the worst roster in the NFL. You're not putting him in a position to succeed. It doesn't matter if Brissett succeeds mentally, whatever. He is who he is at this point. He's a veteran. He came here to bridge the gap. Literally, that's why they signed him to a 1-year deal for short money, relatively speaking, so that he could bridge the gap, give Drake May some experience, give him a clipboard, give him a headset, let him feel like he's getting ready for the real deal, and then watch some games. I'm all about Drake May playing at some point this season. I don't see the point in him starting week 1. There's too many question marks. They have an offensive line that could be 5 John Zanis's for all. Like, it wouldn't be that different. So why are we putting him in a position where he's going to snap the ball and either get sacked or have to throw it away or scramble, possibly get hurt? Let that be for Jacoby Brissett. Let that be, when who they just cut the quarterback there? Who they just cut?
Zappy.
Let that be Zappy. Zappy will probably end up on the practice squad. Shout out my buddy Schiff with that idea. They'll call him off the practice squad when Brissett gets hurt. They'll start him until give me a few weeks. Give me a few weeks before we throw Drake May to the wall.
Give me a Zappy over May.
Listen, Bobby, the same people who want to see Drake May play, the John Zanis's, the Felgers, the whoever's, are the same people who are going to absolutely roast him. They're going to throw him over the coals the second he plays and doesn't look good. And they're going to start comparing him to all the other first-year quarterbacks and second-year quarterbacks who were able to, look like these polished NFL quarterbacks right off the bat. If Drake May was ready to be in that role, I'm confident Gerard Mayo would put him in that role. I think Gerard Mayo looks around and says, A, we don't have enough talent on the offensive side of things to play him. And B, let's give him a few more weeks. I want to see maybe he needs to see a little bit more. Let's get Brissett in there. And if Brissett blows it and if Brissett sucks, then fine. You have another legitimate reason to put May in. But guess what? It's okay if this Patriots team sucks. I think everybody would rather them suck and have the number 1 overall pick than end up with like the 6th pick and win like an extra 2 games.
I think that's a problem if it's a disaster, because then you're just back at square one next offseason. And yeah, you don't have any talent to commit to, as John talked about there earlier. But this isn't an environment to develop players in. It's certainly not an environment to be playing May in for all the reasons Jimmy just talked about. And I think that's a problem because look at how many teams are starting their guys. I know that's what you're going to say, John, is teams do that. You don't have a team to be able to do that. And that's the biggest problem here. If you had a classic Patriots team or talent at a bunch of different positions and certainly a line, you'd feel good about putting him out there day one based on how he looks so far. But the problem is they can't, and they shouldn't, because they'll get destroyed mentally and physically.
Yes.
It's a disaster right now, and it's
I
really
feel like they have to
because,
dumb the playbook down now for these.
So let me go through it. Just my
beyond
thoughts.
that, I don't know how Brissett's the guy who's here. That drives
John,
me
would it
nothing-
be more interesting? Of course. There's zero reason to watch this.
Nothing
team
you're
if
saying
Drake
is
May's not playing.
wrong. Nothing you're saying is wrong.
The biggest
but,
problem,
like,
John, is they have a guy in place as the starter who you can argue May should be in over. They should have a real quarterback here, and they don't.
So
No,
Bobby, you and
we
I never
disagreed
agreed
with
on
that.
that.
Yeah, we always
and
disagreed with
we've disagreed with, and I'm not letting you bring this agenda back because I thought we talked about it. Brissett is supposed to be there to take. He's a human pinata, supposed to be there to take hits and take losses.
Because
He's not
then
supposed
May's
to.
going to be in by week 4.
You don't
play
get
10
a
games.
real You don't pay for a real quarterback when you draft a franchise quarterback. You don't do that.
The
That's
Falcons
not how
just
it
did
works.
it.
You don't. But the Falcons didn't do that.
didn't just do it.
The Falcons saw a rare opportunity. The Falcons just second guessed themselves.
Got him, Bobby.
They thought they wanted Cousins, and then they're like, ooh, and they fell in love with Penix and got him anyway. That was like, oh, I want 2 sports cars, that was impulsive, and it was bad planning and bad management. If they knew they wanted to go get
It
a
might
guy,
work though.
but that wasn't. They didn't do that.
Yeah, I don't think you want to be the Falcons in that situation.
Right, but
You don't
let
wanna be
me
the
let me go,
Patriots.
let me go over it. Let me
No.
go over it point by point, okay?
All right, you have the floor.
Just because I don't disagree with any of it.
What's your
Here's
take?
the thing. The mental aspect is not something they're worried about with Drake May. It's what they keep talking about. Mac Jones was so mentally weak that Bill Belichick had to hold his hand and walk him off the field in his first year because he's pouting like a baby and having these weird emotional outbursts in training camp when things weren't going well. Mac Jones had tough time dealing with everything. It was evident even in his good year. He was emotionally all over the place. He did not deal with things well. He was easily rattled and shook. They don't think that about May at all. 2, you draft a guy like this, which is why you should have never drafted Mac in the first place. The modern day quarterback has to be able to run for his life. All offensive lines are bad everywhere in the NFL. The Patriots are among the worst, but it's a different ballgame for quarterbacks, and you need to be able to get out of the pocket and make off-platform throws, and that's what May can do. So he saves you a little bit from this bad offensive line play. So it's better for the team too. And it also is going to keep him a little bit out of trouble because he's not a statue out there like Mac, who's going to get, just PTSD every time the ball is snapped from what's been happening to him all the way through. 3, no matter what, Drake May is playing this year, and he's going to play behind the same crap old line and the same crappy receivers. What do you save by keeping him 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks? It doesn't make sense.
6 weeks of potentially getting hurt.
It doesn't make sense. He's going in. The other one is you got to see if the guy can play because your window is short. In 2-3 years, you got a couple of years.
Oh, come on.
You're going to have a top 5 pick the next couple of years. You're going to have to reload at the quarterback position. If you wait 10 games to play him and get mixed results and then go into next season to see what you've got and he stinks, you've waited too long. You want to get him reps. I want all the Josh Allen bad throws, bad decisions to come out of his system in year 1. I want this guy as seasoned as possible because you want to be good in year 2. You don't want to just be like, oh, okay, he got some reps under his belt. Maybe he can grow in year 2. No, I want to be good in year 2. So I think
there's plenty of great quarterbacks that didn't have to play their rookie year in order to be good.
I think Patriots fans are a little soft in the head from winning so much and thinking that everything's going to be perfect. Look, this is weird territory for us to be in. Being among the worst teams or the worst team in the league, What do you think happens in all these situations across the NFL when the teams who draft 1, 2, and 3 and take these quarterbacks, they take them and they start them unless the quarterback isn't ready? Right now, May is out playing Brissett and is more ready.
But
probably,
that's more of a Brissett issue.
It is, but the point is, right now, I don't think he's any less ready than Caleb Williams is. I'm not going to lie. I think the raw stuff was way overrated with him. You put him out there, you let him take his lumps, and he figures it out on the fly. I want to see on-the-job training. And my last point is, I find it ludicrous to think that Gerard Mayo clearly is dropping breadcrumbs that he wants him to play, but he's going to defer to Alex friggin' Van Pelt, some like 12-time cast-off who they have at OC, is going to come in and say, no, my system, my way, and Mayo's going to be like, okay, what are we talking about here? That makes no sense to me. So these guys, when you draft them 1, 2, 3, unless there's absolute brutally like Trey Lance level, like, oh God, he can't play at all, they play. And that's what you do. It's just normal. So I think it's so weird, this kid gloves approach that we're taking to him. You know, like,
well, what's the problem with giving him a few more weeks?
I don't see why. I just get him out there and let him figure it out.
What if it goes south immediately? You're gonna just stick with them for 17 weeks of just horribleness, or are you gonna eventually say, all right, we're gonna embarrass him now. We're gonna play Brissett. We're gonna bench May, and then what? They're gonna play quarterback.
So there's a downside. The downside to that is the only downside is that you take him out because he's struggling deeply, and then it's a question of is he mentally going to be able to recover from that? And I think the answer
is shitty, and
I think the answer is
bad because the team around him's bad.
I think the answer is yes. I think the answer is he will be able to recover, and I don't think they're worried about his mental makeup. I think he goes back in there and he takes a couple weeks off, and then he finishes the season, even if he did have to get benched because things weren't going well. But like, I think we've overthought it a little bit here, and I think people got really like, well, the O-line is bad, you can't play him. Like, the O-line's gonna be bad. So you think you think like it? Who cares if you start him and pull him? What if you put him in week 5 because Brissett was bad, and then he sucks for 4 weeks? You still might have to bench him. Like that, him being bad for 4 or 5 games and needing to sit could happen at any point in the season. So it doesn't make a difference to me if it's week 1 or week 5. You've got this shiny new toy. He's supposed to be the future of your franchise. Get him out there and see if he can play, develop a rapport with receivers, and give you something to freaking watch out there. Who's watching a Jacoby Brissett game? I'm not. I'll do the post-game show, but I'm not watching the game. Like, I don't care.
Well, John, those are two different things. I mean, we're talking about it from fans' perspective. Kraft does think that way, so I would not be shocked if he's going to be in Mayo's ear or in Wolf's ear, whoever's ear, being like, hey, nobody's watching us. We need to get some.
So that's the other thing I think is a point. I think I think Mayo wants Dre, wants May, and so does Kraft. And I think Mayo and Kraft outweigh, Van Pelt, and like, Brissett's the guy who can run my offense better. Like, shut up. And like, and then Elliott Wolf worried about his Fabergé egg quarterback being broken behind this crap offensive line because he knows he screwed up and didn't stock it enough.
You might be right, John, based on this situation and what they have. But to me, the best case scenario is having a guy who can carry this, make it competent over the next. And it's not just a quarterback, it's everything. And they don't have anything, which is the real problem. But especially a quarterback who can be mentoring him, who can be playing competitive football and have this be at least a year. I like what you're saying about you got to see what he's got at a certain point. So obviously you can't do the Love thing and some of these other guys who have sat for years. But I would love a year.
What?
Just a year from the
I don't need a full year. I don't need a full year.
I also think those are bad comparisons. The Jordan
I think
Love,
that's the best case scenario.
The Jordan Love and Patrick Mahomes comparisons people keep making are bad comparisons because those guys were, one, Love is sitting behind a Hall of Fame quarterback on a good team contending, and he was supposed to he was Garoppolo. He'll replace him in a couple of years. And the Mahomes thing, again, like a ton of talent, but Alex Smith was a Pro Bowl level quarterback at the time, and the Chiefs were contenders, so you couldn't mess with them in year one. You saw what happened with the Dolphins and Flores and Tua and Fitzpatrick. Flores was insistent. I want Fitzpatrick in there. He's more equipped to run this team. We have a better shot with him. And ownership is like, play the friggin' guy we drafted for you, you know? And I do wonder if Kraft is going to come knocking on that door a little bit when they have the meeting about who's starting. It's like, so we're kind of irrelevant and have been for 2 years.
When he sees the ratings after a couple of weeks.
Back to Jimmy's point, because I think Jimmy said if May plays and he plays bad, you're going to kill him for that too.
You are.
What are you expecting to see out of him this year? Does anything go? Because it could be bad.
Growth and development. I think he's going to do some. I think you want to see some things that show you the ceiling and the flashes of potential, and a shit ton of rookie mistakes, and hopefully a crap ton of losses. Because you want to be drafting top 3 or 4 next year again to get that offensive tackle or a blue chip receiver. You want to win 4 or 5 games. You want to be competitive, and you want hope. It's like any tank year where you're just like, let the kids play, and you just want to see what they have. I mean, and again, that's a good thing about Belichick being gone. Like Belichick would just rely on these
play is what we say.
Let the kids, but I just want to see guys develop and grow and see what you have in them, and then decide whether or not you've got something. And then if you don't, move on. I don't think May falls in that category in year one, but you do want to see it with some younger receivers. You just want to go out there and just friggin' play school, just figure it out.
I think quarterback is just such a unique position in all of sports, where it's like, in basketball, if you're a young up and coming team, play the kids, play the young guys, see what you got. But in football, it's like you need to put your quarterback in a position to succeed. And if you put Drake May out there on the field week 1, you're already basically saying, sorry, bud, you're doomed to fail from the start. And there's been a lot of quarterbacks over the years, John, that have been put in that position, and they've fizzled out, and they've
talented guys.
Yeah. So I see your point.
But I think they were.
The Pats are going to lose regardless. They're going to lose with Brissett. They're going to lose with May. If you just let Brissett take a few of the first games, May get some more practice in. And I know it's just practice, but they're doing everything they can in the NFL now to limit these guys from getting any sort of reps in before the regular season starts. They got rid of a preseason game. They got rid of a bunch of OTAs, and, you can't do 2-a-days. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't practice. All of these players now, these young guys, are coming into the league not ready. And the one thing I don't want to see happen in May is that he gets put out there week 1 with the bare bones knowledge of whatever the stripped down version of the playbook is, with a bunch of weapons that can't catch the ball or run the ball and can't block. And he's thrown out to the wolves and he gets eaten alive. And how many times are we going to see that happen before he gets hurt, or he, does the wrong thing out there a few too many times? He gets blasted on the radio or on TV, the podcast, whatever. And this guy just gets run through the coals. It's like, I don't need that to happen in week 1. Can we give that a few weeks? And then once Brissett runs its course and we get 3 or 4 weeks of freaking talk radio and everybody else just, screaming their heads off, play May. I promise you they will play May this year, earlier than probably they should. And it'll go as possibly good as it possibly could be, which won't be that good. And it might not be all his fault. It won't be all his fault, because at the end of the day, the roster is the roster. You just told me there's not even 40 guys worth keeping on this roster. That's my concern. It's just this guy gets put in a position to fail, and it's just a long ass season, and it just gives him a sour taste. I'm not saying he's a mental midget or he's not going to ever recover. It's just, I don't need to see that right off the bat, but whatever.
I totally get all of the takes, and they are totally reasonable.
And John's gone. You know what, Bobby? That just proves our point that what we're saying is right. John, you know what John wants? John wants so badly for May to play so that he can just freaking criticize the hell out of it, hit the panic button, get everybody all up in arms on the podcast, watch the numbers go up. The Patriots are doomed.
Look at how they did Matt.
Yeah, they drafted the wrong guy. Now what are they going to do? They're going to have the first pick in the draft. Do they go quarterback again because May hasn't shown them anything this year? Or do they stick with their guy? Do they go with an off? You know what I mean? Like, that's it's a round and round we go. And this is listen, this is what makes
They don't have a
sports
plan.
talk so great. But the bottom line is with these Patriots, there's been really no good news. It's been tough.
No.
It's been very, very tough.
They're
And
not exciting
so-
to watch. I'll say this too, Jimmy. This is the first year ever I felt this way. I'm going to be watching more college than NFL.
Me too. I already told my friends I won't sniff the Pats this year. I just can't. I can't. You know what it
Syracuse
is?
has an exciting team this year. I'm going to be locked
Well,
into them.
I'm not going to be watching Syracuse either. But I will say this: football. We know this. New Englanders have been spoiled for 25 years. Football might be the most frustrating sport to watch when your team sucks. It might be the worst sport to watch when your team sucks because you're just turning the ball over or punting.
Hey,
on
baseball
offense.
is right up there, baby.
And you're just watching teams just run over you on the defense. It's just not fun. And we now hide behind our fantasy teams to mask the pain of cheering for a bad, NFL team. And for a lot of people, that's fine. They can get past it. They'll just turn on Red Zone and just numb themselves to the pain of having a horrible home football team. And I think that's the unfortunate reality of the Patriots right now and probably for the foreseeable future. And I don't even want to get dark, but it's never going to be the same. It's never going to be even remotely close to the same. So we should just pop back in the Patriots championship DVDs if that's the feeling that you're looking for, because it's never going to happen again.
Yeah, it's never going to happen
over.
Again. Anyway, it is. It's sad, and you're right. It is. Last year.
It's so freaking painful watching football when your team sucks.
So
man.
It's not just sucks; it's sucks with nothing.
Yeah.
To build on. That's how low the Patriots went last year. Yeah.
Ahmed's calling me a fake fan. Yeah, you know what? I'll wear it.
Yeah.
You know what they need? You need fans like me. If you need fans that are going to tell it like it is, they're going to hold the team accountable, hold the organization accountable, not blindly cheer for laundry and support an organization that has made the wrong move year after year after year for the last 5 years.
Look, you and I will argue on this, Jimmy, but I will say, while I was screaming from the mountaintops as well that Belichick, I thought had reached his expiration date 2 years ago, and they waited on it. I don't think they had a choice but to continue to show deference to him, because people were saying he was wrong about a lot of things he was doing for so long, and he kept being right, that it almost just got to the point where it's I guess I don't get to have an opinion anymore.
Right.
And that's why, but it just got just a little bit too far away. I think after the, but you get why it happened, right? But it just, that's how it went. You had Mac year one. The Mac year one was what killed you, because that team sucked, but they were competitive, and people stupidly thought the arrow started pointing up. So you gave them year two. The heat should have been on after the Cam Newton year, and that Mac year saved him and bought him 2 more years. Then the next year was a disaster by putting in his buddies who'd never coached before to coach things that they didn't know how to coach. And then it was over.
Cam year was a disaster year too, though.
He was a dead man. He was a dead man walking last year. But honestly, it was.
Cam year was when that was when all my antennas letting Brady. I don't want to get into it, but letting Brady walk.
The Cam year was
signing
brutal.
Cam. That was when every red flag and antenna and alarm went off.
That's what I mean. That year should have been the ultimatum year, and then Mac bought him another year, and then the excuses behind the coaches and okay, you're going to do that. And the whole thing sucked. It went on 2 years too long, maybe 3 years too long.
They read the markets wrong. They read everything wrong.
Andrew Callahan just posted an article here about cutdown day. Patriots drafted 7 rookies this year. How many of them made the roster?
7.
All 7. Between the years of 2016 and 2023, how many offensive players that they drafted are on the roster?
7.
7 exactly.
That's crazy. Yeah.
That's
not because they drafted well this year, folks.
Yeah.
Thank God the damn kicker's gone too. I can't believe he was even back in camp.
Ryland, that was an all-time bad pick.
He was the worst kicker I've ever seen.
Dude, it's so bad for the pass that I texted a buddy and said, "Oh wow, they dropped Kevin. Was his name Kevin Harris?"
Harris, yeah.
I was like, "Oh, I thought he may have made the team." That's how far we've gone. I'm talking about a guy named Kevin Harris, the 4th running back, being wow, I thought he may have made the team.
God bless Taylor and those guys. I don't know how they do it.
That guy wouldn't have sniffed the 72-man roster.
Taylor almost Taylor almost chose a new career last year in his first year on the Patriots beat. Like he was like, "What am I going to talk about, John?" I go, "I don't know, man." I was like, "I don't know
He does a
anymore."
good job for how bad it is.
He's been awesome. He's
Dude,
one of the
that's
best in the
what
business. Him
happened
and
when I
Cadlick, just killing it
yeah.
this year. It's great.
Yeah, it's good to have some. It's good that they're young. We'll put it that way, because I
It
feel
is.
like
You're right.
it might not last otherwise.
You put an old head like me covering this beat, you know, like, I mean, just look at the older guys doing it. They're just like, oh, come on. You know,
They're
like
just done with it, man.
it's hard not to. You got to call it for what it is. You know, it's hard. And there's no reason to be fake optimistic over it. It's bad. It's been bad. It's going to be bad. You just got to kind of hope like
They have the
something
worst
starts to
Super
improve.
Bowl odds, John. I just pulled them up. Dead last.
They're favored to be the worst team in the league.
Please.
Like they're expected to pick one next year. That's how bad. It's the worst roster in the NFL. I don't think it's close.
And you know
This is why
what?
tanking
We haven't
sucks.
even talked about this part of it. Players don't want to play here. They don't want to play here. You're gonna
They're
have to
not paying
overpay.
people.
Nor should they.
You're gonna have to overpay for mediocre guys. Those are the only guys you're gonna get. We already saw.
You got to
Ayuk
draft.
doesn't wanna
You
come.
draft your ass off.
You have to draft, but that doesn't happen overnight. That's a 5-year process.
So if you look at every Patriots build, you know, in like the ups and downs of that 20-year thing, they were all preceded by a two to three outstanding drafts. You know, when you see studs picked all over, core players, where you get your Laws and your Brewskis and your Ty Warrens and your Richard Seymours, just one after the other. Yeah. And then you reload, you go down a little bit, you reload. You see it all the time. And that's what they were doing. And so like you need
But they also had Tom Brady. They also got wide receivers.
Of course.
They got Gronk, they drafted Gronk.
But you had legit core members of the team and guys, the most telling thing was how many people that they drafted that they re-signed, and it's so few of them, you know, up until they just signed a couple this year. But contracts, they weren't drafting guys worthy of second contracts, you know, like it was brutal.
They had Brady, they had Belichick, they had those two guys in place that made players. Aside from the players that they drafted, they hit on, they were able to bring in free agents. They were able to even make some big trades for players that wanted to play here, right? So you don't have that anymore, okay? You might have some guys who, you know, I'm hoping that the word gets out on Mayo being a great coach and a player's coach and a great guy to play for. I'm hoping that happens because there's not really any players on the team that are going to draw other players in on either side of the ball. New England is not, you know, a destination for these guys anymore. Like certainly not weather-wise, and certainly not for like, you know, things to do. You're in freaking Foxborough, Mass. You're living in freaking Norwood. You know, like you're not. It's not Miami. It's not LA. It's not Las Vegas. There's no draw there. The draw was winning championships. The draw was I want to win a Super Bowl. I want to play for Belichick. I want to catch balls from Brady. None of those things exist anymore. Literally none of them. So what's the draw? What's the reason? Other than money, other than being drafted, you need something. So you have to, and that was the one thing I didn't like about, and there's probably way more to it that I don't know. But freaking linebacker that they just traded.
Judon
was a guy that he was a name. It seemed, at least from on the surface, that he loved New England, that he wanted to be here and play here. I'm sure he wanted to get paid, obviously, too, and they didn't want to pay him what he wanted. But that felt like, okay, here's a guy, came from a good organization in Baltimore, still a top level type player, maybe something they could build around, get the culture going in the right direction, you know, attitude, you know, a voice for the team or the defense. They got rid of him. Now they have really nobody.
I got a wake-up call for people because a lot of people are saying the defense was elite and this and that. No. Statistically, the defense was very good. The defense also had Bill Belichick spending 100% of his effort there because basically Kraft wouldn't let him touch the offense. And he said, okay, fuck it. Let OB do it. He's the genius savior that you made me hire. Okay. Almost to the point of sabotage. And he spent zero time on it. Spent zero time
literally
on it.
He's put together the worst offense ever.
Spent zero to okay, I'll draft you nothing.
I'm going to go coach these guys. You coach those guys. Tell me how you do. And that's what he did. And I'm very curious how this same collection of people without Barmore and Judon do this year without Bill Belichick coaching them. That elite defense is going to look very middle of the pack or worse.
You're going to be on the field
year.
every freaking second. They're never going to have a minute off the field.
So that's I'd be very concerned.
Was their only exciting player.
That was
you have. I'm here. I want to see how good they are without Bill Belichick putting all of his effort in there, and without their two best playmakers in Barmore and Judon. I am very concerned about the defense as well, which is why this could be a 2-win season and not. If they win, it's going to be because Drake May goes in there and pulls a miracle or two and does something goofy,
right?
Like
or they play a team that's hurt or something.
They'll play some shit teams too. But anyway, our Patriots minute lasted about 30 minutes, but there was a lot to say here. And they're obviously a good bit more interesting than the Celtics at this time of year. So it was worth talking about.
What do we got? Patriots, Bengals, week 1.
The Trags reunion. We'll be out there.
Nice. We're gonna get Trags on. We're gonna get.
Trags. Oh, we get Trags on. We'll do a little. Trags is like the mayor over there. They friggin' love him.
I'll tell you what. Everywhere Trags goes, man, winning follows him. The Bengals are a legit team right now. They're a 9-point favorite.
They had a shaky year, but they should bounce back.
Bengals are a 9-point favorite against the Patriots, and honestly, that might be too low.
Yeah,
that might be too low. I'm trying to figure out if the Patriots can even score 9 points.
That's going to be the thing. Anyway, we are going to wrap it up. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. We'll keep doing these garden reports and keep trying to find things to talk about. We might do a straight Q&A next time, so we'll get your thoughts and solicit some of those on Twitter. Yeah. Good to have the band back. Yep.
Amit, Rich, and I will be hanging out down at Raising Cane's tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Is that a secret? Is that a secret, Bobby?
No, I think it's out.
Is that for public consumption?
I think so.
Well, let's hold off just in case not.
All right.
We have more stuff.
We'll pretend that didn't happen.
Shh. Yeah. Anyway, back from Europe, back to hanging. We're happy. We're hanging out with you guys.
I'm gonna be hanging at Cisco Brewers in Seaport on Thursday. I'm gonna be playing some music there. 5 o'clock.
And then what will you be doing?
Then it will be jumping on our fantasy football draft. That is correct.
Should we go live with it?
You can. I don't know if I'll be home in time to be on the podcast, but I'll be drafting from my phone for sure. When do we get the pick order?
I sent it.
Oh, you did? Oh, that's right. I think I'm 5th.
While back.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. Anyway,
I didn't get a great pick, I don't think.
No?
Not that I can
5th is good. 5th is good. Anyway, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. We will see you possibly on Thursday, but sometime later on this week. Follow us all on Twitter, and you will get notified of when the next Garden Report will be. As always, we'll always be here if there is any breaking news, because that's what we do. We also want to remind you again, support our sponsors, buy a hard hat, but also support our sponsors, Prize Picks, promo code CLNS. Use the code CLNS for $100 deposit match up to $100 if you deposit 100. Number one fantasy sports app out there. Also, check out Game Time. You want to get seats to some of the hottest events in your neighborhood. Check out Game Time. Go in and create an account. Use the code CLNS, $20 off your first purchase. And where do we find merch? Where's our merch? Lower third.
CLNS.merch.store.com. No, that's not it. We're going to have a merch lower third in there somewhere. Shop.clnsmedia.com. There you go.
There it is.
Still running the promo code. We still got the green hard hats. I think we still have a few white hard hats. Don't quote me on that, but those ones are limited edition. They say banner 18 on the side. The green ones are forever. Guys, if you're watching, we want to fill up the TD Garden with these hard hats. We want to make everybody know what it's all about. These things are legit. Anyone who's bought in one has loved it. I got a lot of DMs from people on Twitter, some on Instagram saying they love it. It's great quality. It's a real hard hat. It's got the padding on the inside. This is the real deal. You could wear this on a construction site. So if you have a friend or a family member who's in construction, or maybe he's an electrician, maybe he's in carpentry, whatever, great little gift. Opening night's going to be right around the corner. We want to have everyone in hard hats.
We would like to see that. We're going to make a big push at that. Production is going to ramp up heading into the opener.
Ramp up. Promotion's going to ramp up. We'll probably have another T-shirt out, maybe. A lot of good things happening. If you have any Patriots T-shirt ideas, send them to me. I'm the T-shirt guy. So something maybe about May. I don't know if there's any other player on the team worth making a T-shirt for, to be honest, but
there is not.
We'll do one called Start Drake May. How about that?
Yeah. But anyway, rep our merch store. Check it out. Jimmy Toscano out there pumping out quality goods for you guys to help rep our brand. And as we said, we will be back sometime later this week with some more Celtics chatter. Yep.
Look at that. The phenomenal hat.
I love it.
That's a good looking hat. Phenomenal.
Love it.
All right. We'll see you guys.
Wait, Amit's got an outro for us, I think.
No, he doesn't.
He said he was going to work on an outro.
He had a phenomenal game. Forfeit's out. I think it's an auction. That did not sound like a chair.
It was a freaking chair. It does sound like a chair.